All right, guys, how are we all? Hopefully, just going to get a bit of a chat with another exam coach who I thought I was the only one in the globe, but there's now two of us.
At least.
At least, Yvonne.
Least of it.
So, been a bit of a great journey in terms of how we've came across each other, Yvonne, and we're going to have a chat here and get all the people who are going to watch this, hopefully as many as possible, and give some really, really useful information, both from our experiences and in terms of what we see with our clients on a daily basis, and see any obstacles or challenges, and give some practical and useful information to everyone out there. So first of all, it's absolutely brilliant to have you. And we're going to have a really good chat. I'm really looking forward to this.
I too. I think we probably should have started recording from the beginning of our conversation, because there's a possibility.
Maybe we shouldn't have. Maybe we shouldn't.
That was possibly more interesting than some of the rest of the stuff we're going to cover.
Indeed. But
awesome, yeah.
One thing, I fixed my earpiece. One thing, Yvonne, is that I've been thinking about, and what I want to ask you is, what do you think the three biggest stumbling blocks are for accounting students now?
It's such a good question, and I think it's a question that every student wants to ask, and when you start answering it, none of them want to hear it. It's one of those things where don't ask the question you don't want the answer to, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a super good question. In my experience, is number one is mindset. You know, students come in with a certain mindset, and it's not going to help them for their studies. Two is their legacy study habits, the study habits that they learned at schools in earlier levels, are not actually appropriate for what they're going to study, and no one tells them this, and no one tells them what they should do instead. And the third one is, especially for accounting students, specifically for accounting students, is that by nature of who they are and what they want to study, they value technical skills over problem-solving skills, and technical skills over application, communication, discussion, and emotional intelligence. You know, so they kind of, in a completely over-summarized oversimplification, they prefer or they value IQ over EQ.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I know in your specialism of auditing, that's probably very, very prevalent.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think, lecturing auditing is a fascinating, has given me such an interesting facet and view into student studying, because although they're accountants, auditing is completely contradictory to most of the skills that they thought they were going to be learning.
Yeah.
Most of them come into auditing and they go, but where's all the numbers? I started studying accounting because I was good with numbers, and now you're giving me all this communication stuff. If I wanted to do communication, I'd have studied English, I'd have studied literature.
It's funny whenever you say that I'll give an example of a person that came in. Whenever I worked for Grant Thornton, I was senior audit manager for Grant Thornton, and we had a student that came in that had every academic qualification under the sun to the highest standard, but whenever put out into the field and having to go and talk to clients, going to have to extract proper information, that was non-existent. Couldn't sit down and have a conversation, or if it was quite robotic. So one bit I believe is one of my strengths, even whenever I was a trainee accountant, was able to sit down with a client and go, well, how you doing? How's your family? Are you going for holiday? Whatever. Yeah. But give me the bank rec. Give me this. You know what I mean? But build that rapport first.
Yeah.
And that's maybe skills that need to be developed more with the students, definitely.
I think people think that accountants and auditors are not people persons. They like to sit behind it. But the reality is, you have to be more of a people person, because the people on the other side of the table probably don't like you.
Yeah.
Not because you personally, but they're nervous about what you're there to do. They don't know what you do. They don't understand the language that you're speaking. You speak in financial statement lingo that they don't really understand. And you intimidate them, you make them nervous. So you've actually got to be really good with people skills to calm them down, get what you need out of them, and like understand what's going on, get them talking or conversation, because that nerves, that anxiety, that fear is not going to get you the information that you need. So you actually have to be really good at people skills in order to do this properly.
And I'm delighted you mentioned emotional intelligence. Maybe we'll touch on that further on down in the conversation. But in terms of, Yvonne, the mindset element, is there any particular facet of mindset you see as the biggest issue?
I think that there's the classic accounting, and I'm going to stereotype and generalize because it's something that I've come across in probably 90% of students that I deal with. Mm-hmm. So I'll apologize in advance if people feel that I'm over stereotyping, because it's natural, but most of the students I come across have the same types of issues. It's the accounting student, it's like a perfect storm for disaster. So almost everything that they come into their studies with is a perfect storm that's going to create disaster at higher levels of their studies. So their personality traits, valuing numbers and formulae and format-driven thinking over problem solving, communication, etc., is a challenge. Being perfectionists are seen, being a perfectionist is seen as a strength in school and lower studies, when in reality, it's actually a weakness, and it causes more drama than it helps. A-type personalities, very specific, very detailed, specific, hold on to things, very serious. Your classic A-type personality doesn't help with your studies later on. And then having a fixed mindset where, you have to be perfectionist. It's about the outcome, not the journey. It's about the product, not the process. It's about getting the right answer first time. It's about being ready to do something before you actually do it. Having a fixed versus a growth mindset is, it doesn't help either. So all these types of things, I think, are make up the mental space that the student is in and makes up their mindset. And all of that, without going too far into detail about that, your internal messaging, your sense of having, have to get something right, don't want to do something if I'm likely to fail, I must get it right first time I do it, all of that stuff, it impacts the way that you study. It impacts everything you do on a daily basis. It impacts what you choose to study today. It impacts what you avoid. And that stuff is more likely to make you fail along the line than the fact that you can't remember how to do a deferred tax calculation.
And the perfectionist bit, I think that leads massively into self-doubt, especially if you can't understand straight away. And I've had a number of clients that are absolutely wrecked with self-doubt, and they come and they use the language of I can't pass exams, or I fail. I'm going, hold on a minute, is there any concrete evidence to say that you've passed exams before? And they go, oh yeah, of course.
Exactly.
That's the rubbish that your mind is portraying, because the caveman syndrome kicks in, the defense mechanism kicks in, and goes, hey, I don't want you to do this exam. I'm going to tell you all the rubbish of the day. So the self-doubt kicks in, and that is right back from being a perfectionist, because you want to get everything 120% right.
Absolutely.
Which is not going to happen. And the reason I know that is because it used to happen to me all the time. The classic perfectionist.
I keep on saying to students as well, I'm still stupid. I still don't know what I'm doing. I passed, I'm qualified. And nowadays I'm quite happy to admit that I don't know what I'm doing, because, you realize that's life. And if you do know what you're doing, it's because you've been doing the same thing for so long that you haven't learned anything new. Because the moment you learn something new, you're going to start off being stupid. It's a journey. Learning is about starting off being stupid and then picking up and learning as you go along. And then you go back to learning something new and being stupid again and moving on. That's how life goes. It's learning.
The good old saying, win or learn. No such thing as losing. Classic.
No, it is. It's I think students come in, and I don't know how you feel, but the mindset of not wanting to look stupid is something that really, is really detrimental to students. So part of that mindset is, I don't want people to know that I don't know what I'm doing. And the problem with that is that they're less likely to ask questions. They don't actually put themselves out there and go, hold on a minute, what are you talking about? Where does this come from? What are you doing? And then they sit in the background and they try and figure it out themselves, and they scratch it and they figure, and then the self-doubt creeps in and the confidence issues creep in, and, they get locked into the cycle of not knowing what they're doing, and they're wasting time because they want to know what they're doing before they come to the lecturer and go, can you help me? They go, but I don't want you to know how stupid I am. I'm like, trust me, dude, I know. Like, I know exactly how stupid you are.
I would actually say
What we
Yvonne,
do.
that could be an issue with the ego of the profession.
It's a good, yeah. Is that, yeah, does the profession like propagate that?
You know, accountancy has got a certain ego about it. And
Oh, no,
I
yeah.
know with some of the firms, especially, you know, you come in and you go, I can't show weakness here. So
That's true.
I
That's
remember,
true.
I remember in Grant Thornton, we had a real old school partner. And that was the partner you did not want to show any weakness in front of. Yet we had
Right.
a younger partner. And I remember one of the first things he said to me, he's actually a really good friend of mine now. And he said to me, James, you can't, there's no such thing as a stupid question.
Yeah.
Actually, I think he put it like this, you can't get sued for asking a stupid question. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
You know, in the context of auditing, go and ask all the stupid questions of the day.
Everything. Yeah.
You know?
Whatever you're struggling with. And if you, on a practical level for students, if you're paying someone to teach you, then take advantage of the resources that you have. And, you know, I say to students, you know, don't worry if you don't, you know, don't worry about thinking, oh, Yvonne's going to think that I don't know what I'm doing. Yvonne already knows that you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, Yvonne can see it in your eyes. Like, I can see that you don't know what you're doing. And when I ask you, like, are you comfortable with this? And you go, yeah, I know you're lying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I know you don't know what you're doing. And that's fine, because that's part of the journey. If you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't be here. So yeah, I'd love students to understand that not knowing what you're doing is part of the process.
Yeah, without a doubt, without a doubt.
And asking for help is the smart thing to do.
It's a strength, not a weakness. Getting help is a strength.
It's a good point you make. I wonder, like, I think I want to think about that more. Like, is the status and the image and the ego of the profession itself partly to blame?
No doubt about it.
For people, you know, not wanting, I don't want people to know that I don't know what I'm doing. Obviously, you don't want to portray that in front of a client.
No, of course not. Of course
that
not.
would be a bit of a bad idea.
But the key thing is, you acknowledge you don't know what you're doing. You won't find out how to do it, and then you show yourself in front of them.
Yeah, you're far more likely to land up in trouble if you come back later. Yeah.
Yeah, without a doubt. You know, you turn up the client like the peacock, and you show the feathers, and hey, I know it all. But then behind
and then you land up in court, and all of a sudden you're like, oh.
But then behind it, you have to ask the questions and find out the information.
Absolutely.
And that's definitely massive with studying. But in terms of exam technique, what area of exam technique do you think is neglected the most?
It's not entirely, I think the first thing that comes to mind is the difference between learning and studying. Where I think students now we know, and we've drummed into students that you should be doing questions. You know, you have to do more practical questions. No, fine. But how you learn from those questions is still lacking. So what I find students do, again, especially because, you know, accounting students are generally pretty good at retaining information.
Yeah.
Again, part of the personality trait is memory-based. You know, there's a memory-based element. And I always say to students that your brain is not a dual core processor. It can only do one thing at a time. And when you pick up information, either your brain is busy memorizing it or it's busy thinking about it. But it can't do both at the same time. So you've got to be really careful that your brain, you know, when you absorb or you look at information, learning it is about thinking about it, and studying it is about memorizing it, you know. So when students do questions, I tend to find that what they do is they don't think about the solution when they get the solution, or they go through, this is how I should have done it. They don't think about, why didn't I do it that way? What was the trigger? Where am I thinking? And etc. They study the solution. So it's almost like they bank a database, and by the time they're done, they have a database of like 10 solutions. If a question looks like this, then that's the solution. And if the question's got XYZ in it, that's the solution. And so they go into the exam, more questions they do, the more database of solutions they have.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually mean that they've really unlocked why it works that way. So if I give them a completely different question based on the same concepts, they still fail, because that question doesn't look like the others. So they don't know, you know, of their bank of questions and solutions, they don't know which one to choose. So they either dump all of them in there, or they're like, I'm just going to pick one and hope for the best, because they haven't actually worked on the problem solving skills. They just have a massive bank of answers and go, I'm going to pick you, like put you in there. So I think the difference between what studying is versus what learning is, we need to go beyond just telling students, you need to do more questions. They need to understand and learn how and what to do with those questions.
Very, very interesting, because what I see, Yvonne, is that, and linking this into mindset as well. So typical student that I would come across would do, for example, a past paper, and then they'll go and review the solution and then, I got that wrong. Let's bin that, or let's move on. Let's close the books. Let's go watch TV.
Yeah.
You know, so they try and compensate for it. But the sense of negativity comes in, and then they have to go and do something else to deflect from that.
Recover,
Where I say is this, right, if you're doing this question and you make a mess of it, that's actually really, really good.
Right.
Go in. And then I've coined the phrase for this, reverse engineering. So you go into the solution.
Right. Yeah.
You go into the solution and you reverse engineer it back to the question, asking those questions that you've just said. Why is this?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Yeah.
You know, why does that calculation happen like that? It prompts those questions then to go back and actually reverse it, because you're completely right. There are some topics you can rote learn. So if you've got an essay, you can regurgitate it. But if it's a calc question, you can't learn off a question. Like, you can't memorize a calc. You have to understand how.
Like auditing, for example, you know, the next job you audit doesn't look like the last job you audit.
No, definitely not.
Obvious. You know, so therefore the next auditing question you do is not going to look like the last auditing question that you do. So you can't learn. You know, I have students so many times, and it bugs me, and they go, can you give me a list of substantive procedures for fixed assets? And I'm like, you can't do it that way. You know, that's not how it works. So yeah, I really like that term, reverse engineering. And it's also, you know, going into slightly more detail again, because accounting students are more likely to the way that our, and I say, you know, it's not they, it's our, because I'm a classic accounting student myself, you know, so it's not them, it's me as well. I do the same thing. Because the skill that you're good with when you're good with numbers is rhythm and trend and pattern spotting. You know, the underlying skill about being good with numbers is formats, if then, outcomes based, and trend spotting. So that creates a thinking of, you know, what I find students do is they go, when they do the reverse engineering, they look and go, I must put that answer when I see that word. That word triggers that answer, and that word triggers that answer. So it's an if then. So they're not actually thinking about the concept, the principle behind it. They're going, all right, when I see the word fixed, then I must do it that way. And when I see the word variable, I must do it that way. And that, again, like, although they are reverse engineering, they're spotting trends. You know, it's pattern spotting rather than genuine problem solving and thinking.
Yeah, I think that it's boils down to that word, isn't it? Think. You have to think about it. One thing, funny enough, that I see issues, and especially in exam technique, Yvonne, is that of brainstorming and planning in the middle of the exam. I just don't think people do enough of it. So, you know, I would say so a classic thing that people tend to do, especially with case study exams, which is a lot of here with Chartered Accountants Ireland, is that people will tend to read a case study, read the case, maybe read a requirement, and then go back and read the case again. So therefore, you've wasted the time reading it twice. So
my favorite is that they highlight the case study.
Oh, the whole thing.
But they don't make notes of why they highlighted it.
Correct.
Which means you still have to come back and read it again.
Correct. So
you know it's important, but you don't know why it's important. Like,
so if you read the requirement, at least you know what you're looking for. And if you read the case the first time around, read the case, maybe highlight those important words, circle important words, brain dump your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
That's what people tend to do. And then go and write an answer that is no way connected to what their thoughts have been whenever they read the question. So I go, okay. So you've done a thing, you've brainstormed it, but you've done nothing about it. So get that brainstorming, those highlighted words, those thoughts that you've doodled around the case, and put it just below the question into a 5, 6, 7 point bullet pointed plan.
Some kind of structure.
That can take 5 minutes to do. And literally then once you're answering the question, you go back and you systematically tick it off. Us accountants are supposed to be logical. We're supposed to be very systematically driven. But yet you mentioned the word exam and study, and all that hops out the window. All logic, all planning, everything just goes, it's gone. So
it's also, I think the logic is ditched because of stress and fear.
the emotional element.
And the time limitation, you can't see past the time limitation. And so therefore, and understandably, when you're under time pressure and you're freaking out, and this is so important, are you going to ditch reading the case study? No. Are you going to ditch actually writing the answer? No. So what component do you ditch? The component that doesn't directly get you marks, which is, hey presto, the planning. Except that it's a short-term gain. It's a short-term gain because the plan is what connects the case study to your answer.
But then my challenge even to that would be, if someone was to say that, would be, yeah, but you're going to write your answer, and you might write the same point 2 or 3 times. You might write it in the body of the answer and then write exactly the same thing for your conclusion. Be more efficient and more concise in your answer, and take that 5 minutes for your planning, because it'll put a structure around, and actually it will help you emotionally as well, because you go, okay, I've formulated the plan. Let's now go and execute that plan.
Yeah.
In terms of writing your question, I think it's more about efficiency. People tend to get lost in the emotions and just write anything that comes into your head.
And fear and stress makes logic, ration, good common sense. Obviously, like fear and stress chucks all that crap out the window, and we become fight and flight, and then everything we know goes out the window.
And hence, whenever me and you are coaching our students, and the first sort of thing we talk about is mindset, and they go, we're not here to talk about accountancy.
I wanted to help with the calculation. Why are you talking to me about mindset? Oh, so much. Because, mindset, and when I speak to students about that, they're like, oh, but I'm not really here for like the warm, fuzzy stuff,
Yeah. No, but
I'm like, I understand that, but that affects everything you do.
Completely right. Have you any wacky study tips? Anything on you?
It's I think we all do, right? I don't think anyone doesn't. Probably the wackiest one, and it's something that accounting students, again, because of our personality, probably find the most wacky, is that I talk about it as, I call it the you versus your brain conflict.
Mm-hmm.
So very much like, we know we need to go to gym. So you need to go to gym, but your brain goes, I don't feel like it. Let's sit on the couch rather. Like, I don't want to do this. And there's an internal conflict in each of us between comfort zone. So I call that your brain. Like, your brain likes the comfort zone. Your brain wants to say, your brain's a little bit lazy, let's be honest. But it's super smart, but very lazy. It's very sneaky, very manipulative, but it's very lazy. And then you need to work hard. You need to push your boundaries. So there's this constant internal conflict. So what I say to students is, when it comes to your studying, your brain wants to keep you in your comfort zone, fine. But your brain also wants to protect you from feeling bad. Like, fight or flight, like, let's protect you. And part of that is your brain protecting you from how bad you feel when you fail. So it's kind of going, well, if you fail this question when you're studying, like, if you don't get this question right when you're studying, you're going to feel bad. So let's just not do the question.
Yeah.
It's just the point of the question. So your brain is protecting you from feeling bad, but you have to go through that process. So I say to students, I want you, before you start studying, or as you sit down to study for the day, I want you to sit down and have a conversation with your brain, like almost like you're talking to someone else, and sit down with that part of your brain and go, okay, we need to talk about this. I don't need you to protect me from anything. We have to go through this process, and we're going to make mistakes, because that's part of learning. Like, we're not failing, we're making mistakes for us to learn. I don't need you to protect me from that. I need you to be my cheerleader. I don't need you to be holding me back, because we really have to do this, but let's do it together. And if we make a mistake, that's fine. That's part of the process. Let's make the mistake now and let's do it. But I need you to be my cheerleader. I need you to be behind me and pushing me to do this and helping me do it. I don't need you to protect me. Like, I'm big, fat, and ugly enough to take care of myself. We're going to be good. So it is a little bit weird, and some students are like, yeah, that sounds a little psychotic. A little like voices in your head.
I get that one.
That. Yeah. Like,
have you ever read the book Yvonne, Think and Grow Rich?
No, I haven't. I haven't actually read that.
It's a classic by Napoleon Hill, and he talks about he has an internal board of directors, and he will have, he will have a committee meeting every night, or he
Oh,
had a
that's
committee
quite
meeting
clever.
every
That's
night.
so clever.
And he had
Yeah,
a
yeah.
chair, and he had a secretary, and he had a treasurer, or whatever.
That's so clever.
Each member of his board of directors was a personality. So it would have been Andrew Carnegie, or Abraham Lincoln, or Jesus, or Buddha, or whoever.
Yeah, yeah.
He had a different
Yeah.
character for each board of directors. I thought it was a brilliant idea. So you can maybe
That's
have
so,
an
that's
internal
so
an
smart.
internal board of directors for studying
Yeah,
accountancy.
yeah. That's so clever.
And
I
you have
really
it,
like that.
and you have
So I
it.
think, yeah, I think that's a, yeah, give that part of your brain a name, and then, but you have to, you have to vocalize it. You have to speak it, because you got to, you got to embed that. And then I also say, like, part of that process is write that fear down on a Post-it note. Like, this is what I'm worried about. So you recognize it and you acknowledge it. Don't hide away from it, because it's there. You can't avoid it. You can manage it, but you can't avoid it. Write it down and then put it in your drawer. Write the fear, acknowledge it, and go, I'm worried that I'm going to fail this question, and I'm worried that I'm going to feel stupid about it. This is what I'm worried about, but I can't focus on that right now. So I'm going to take this piece of paper, I'm going to take this fear, and I'm going to put it in the drawer while I do the question. I acknowledge it, but I'm putting it away. Like, I'm putting it aside. I'll deal with you later. Like, we'll pick up this conversation later, but for right now, I don't need you here. Like, I can't have you here right now. Sorry, can we stop for a moment? I've got someone at the door that I can't.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so let me tell you a wacky study tip.
Yeah.
Well, I still use this now. So if I, Yvonne, have got a textbook, I will go to a local print shop and tell them to cut the spine of the textbook, and tell them to hole punch the textbook.
Right.
So therefore, I can put that into a LibreArts file, and what I can do is I then can put associated notes, handwritten notes, lecture notes, whatever, and put it into the relevant chapters. I can then have whichever past paper questions and solutions into the relevant, if it's fixed assets, or if it's auditing debtors, or whatever that may be, or deferred tax. And therefore, I build up a massive sort of Bible of documents in the one LibreArts file. I still do that this very day. And so therefore,
are you categorizing everything?
I'll categorize everything. I'll have an index in the front. I'll have dividers that divides out all the topics. So if someone says to me, okay, we're going to talk about earnings per share today, I'd just go, boom, there's earnings per share.
There's all the stuff.
And everything's It's one thing is study organization is key. And sometimes with some of my student clients, they have no organization whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
some of the good one of the benefits of studying is that it gives you a really great excuse to buy stationery.
yeah.
Files and highlighters and Post-it notes and like different color pens and stuff. So I agree. Yeah.
Well, I used to go and get all that stuff from work, but we'll not say that out loud.
Oh no. Fringe benefits.
Of course. The other wacky study tip, now I've never used this, but one client of mine actually said it worked, was that to use perfume stroke, say the same perfume or the same aftershave every single day while studying and on the day of the exam. So there's some sort of connection with association. And one person said it worked, but hey.
Yes, it is scientifically proven though. Like your brain, the more anchors you use with different senses, the more your brain retains and gets into that frame of mind. So I'm actually reading a book at the moment called How We Learn, which is going into all the newer things we understand as we're learning how the brain works. And he talks about exactly that. But he also says, depending on the topics that you study, not only the smell, but same as taste, sight, etc. So he says, if you're going through a certain topic or something you struggle with, even by putting a certain color highlighter on your desk. So when you're covering a certain topic or you're covering a certain thing, when you're studying and you put like an orange highlighter on the corner of your desk, even that connects your brain with that information. So when you get into an exam and you find a topic, you find a question on that topic, putting the orange highlighter on the corner of your desk in the exam actually connects and helps bring that information up. So he says right from like the flavor chewing gum to, different pens or putting stuff on different components of the desk, smells, etc. Music, well, you can't take sounds and music into the exams, but it's absolutely scientifically sound that the more sensors you connect, the more senses you connect when you're learning, the easier the brain recalls it. It's completely scientifically sound. So well done you.
Apparently the sound one of the music one's the Mozart effect. Apparently if you listen to Mozart,
Yeah.
That's the one.
But the again, scientifically, your brain processes patterns, I think 60 times more than words.
Okay.
And it processes music and sound 60 times more than patterns. So if you really want to be an awesome lecturer, you'll learn how to sing.
Well,
You'll make music.
Thank goodness I don't lecture anymore, because I can't sing a note.
If you sing your topics, then your students are definitely going to remember. I don't think I am that committed to my students.
No, I'm definitely not. I wouldn't want to offend their ears. But
shame, yeah. It'll be memorable. Don't put it. I mean, they'll remember it.
But what if then? So you've got your client, you've got your students, and they're successful and they pass their exams, and everything's great. What's your top tip then for newly qualified?
Never stop learning. Never stop learning. Like the studying, we stopped the studying because we're so sick of it. Fine. Like, we don't want more exams. Like, stop that. But never, you're right. Like you said, the arrogance and the ego of the profession, you don't know it all and you won't know it all. So never stop learning, but shift what you learn from the technical stuff and to stuff that you're really interested in, that you want to, and people-based, empathy-based, and future-based skills. Future-based stuff. So start learning more about technology and systems and processes. Start learning more about people and communication skills and that, or whatever it is. Never stop learning. Never stop investigating stuff, interrogating stuff, asking questions. It's only really arrogant people that think that we, that everything and that you can move on. Stop the exams by all means, because those are crap. But
Yeah. So those people who think they know everything, do you know what they actually know? Nothing. Yeah, I know. It's like
the smartest people are those who keep asking questions, right? Like,
empty vessels make the most noise. I remember. I remember a teacher shouting that at me one day in school.
I take it you were noisy.
No, but not that. I'll not admit to that. I'll not admit. One thing I definitely say now to all my student clients, once they qualify, is to get a mentor, a long-term mentor.
Yeah.
It's something I didn't have, Yvonne, especially whenever I was just newly qualified and became senior manager. I didn't have that. I have a mentor now, without a doubt. Fantastic. But I wish I knew that 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, definitely. I was actually talking to someone. I was talking to a human capital strategist the other day, and she was saying she prefers using the term facilitator rather than mentor, because the difference is, having a mentor, people kind of get the impression that the person knows more than you do and kind of tells you and mentors you and like helps you do that thing. Whereas the thought of a facilitator is someone who facilitates your learning, kind of raises the questions for you to find your answers to, or pushes you to another level. But it's not to say that they know the answers, because there will never be like one person who knows all that stuff. So I have a lot of students who want me to be their mentor. And I'm kind of saying, well, you're going to outgrow me one day. Like, you're going to move your own channel. I can facilitate thinking. I can facilitate questions and like thought-provoking stuff. But I want to facilitate your learning, and your development and stuff. I want you to develop in your own way. But I agree with you. We actually, after we qualified and a few years after we qualified, we got a performance coach.
Okay.
And that was like the best decision ever. And he comes from a sports background. He does performance coaching for a lot of the national team sports, rugby, that type of thing in South Africa. And so it's interesting, like, how does a sports coach, sports performance coach, like, what is the value of that for us as accountants, for your accounting profession? And the reality is that no matter what you do in life, you're expected to perform. So learning how your brain performs and learning performance skills and how to increase efficiency, how to increase performance and the way that your brain works, etc., it's super valuable, regardless of whether you have to perform in a sports team or you have to perform in a corporate team.
Without a doubt. It's all similar.
And that was the most valuable thing. It was hard because, like a mentor to a large extent will, I imagine, you have the same thing, will challenge you more emotionally than technically.
Without a doubt.
Yeah, your mentor is not saying to you like, oh, you need to remember that calculation. Your mentor's going like, so what's the really tough decisions you need to make in life? What's the really next tough decision you make in life? They focus on the emotional stuff, and that's super important. You're 100% right. It's a very good point.
Sometimes students believe that a mentor or coach is actually going to do the exam for them, and it's going to learn all the technical stuff for them. And I'm going, I'm sorry, I got really, really bad news for you. You're going to learn all that stuff yourself, but if you have any questions, you can ask me. But I will make you accountable. I will hold you to task. I will do all that there. It's unfortunately I'm not going to do the exam for you, dear client.
Yeah, I've done mine. Like I've served my time. I'm not doing it for you as well. I did it for myself.
No, I know. It's definitely, but certainly get a mentor. The other thing I would say is to try and build your network, which is a very important thing. But do it in a different way. Yvonne, 10 years ago, my version of what I thought networking was is very different to what it is now.
Yeah.
Networking to me then 10 years ago was going into a meeting with people I didn't have anything in common with and buying out business cards. Now it's going and finding like-minded people that I will learn and develop and grow with, and that's different.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you think of how we've connected 10 years ago, like you and I live on different continents.
Yeah.
I live at the bottom of Africa, and you live like
way up north.
Way up there. Way up north.
In Ireland, the land of winter.
Exactly. Completely different climate. So 10 years ago, there's absolutely no way you and I ever would have been in the same room together.
No.
Never would have happened. So, technology, technology, social media means that you can connect with people that you have stuff in common with, or, that you can learn from and develop and knock and bounce ideas off of each other that you've never met and won't meet. It would be great to meet with you one day and sit down and have coffee with you, but it may never happen. And yet, we still get value out of the discussions. We still get value out of the
imagine we could be there all day, Yvonne, talking about stuff.
I agree. There would be a lot of coffee. There would be a lot of coffee.
You'd be shaking by the end amount of caffeine in our systems.
We have to switch to decaf somewhere.
Indeed. So do you have any other thoughts with the whole exam process or study process or anything?
Man, I would love, and I'm sure you would too, I would love to overhaul the exam assessment process in entirety. As much as we tell students, you should do it this way and you should do it that way, and we're kind of telling them how they need to work and think about stuff to succeed in the current format, and in the current way that exams are done. But I would love for students to be assessed and taught and examined to really prepare them for what their career is going to look like. Because to a large part, they do the studying and then they come into work and you go, all that stuff, ditch it, because now you're going to do it all in an Excel spreadsheet.
Practically, it was like whenever first year in Grant Thornton, and I'd done a degree in accountancy and a master's degree in accountancy as well. Thought I knew everything about accountancy. Knew nothing. First was it 2 months given a small accounts prep job to do.
Yeah.
Did not have a clue how to do a bank rec. I did not know bank rec. So that's you can learn all the theory as well, but the practical thing is different. So you're quite right in terms of assessment, in terms of teaching. But in terms of previous study habits, then it's ingrained. Essentially what we're saying is that doesn't really prepare you for professional exams and for an industry or for the real world out there, without a doubt. Even about my study methods changed very drastically between uni and between professional exams.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I was very much along the lines of, and you've probably seen this many times, where how you're taught in school is rote learning. So you buy a textbook, you write out the textbook wholesale, and through some miracle of osmosis, it gets into your head.
That's right. Yeah.
And I've done that in university, and look, it worked in university. Why? Because I had the time to do that. That was
Yes.
grand. And
Yeah.
then you go to work and you go, oh my God, you've got work and study at the same time and you've got to work all these hours. How am I going to manage that? So
Yeah.
believe it or not, this is how I changed my study was yes, I got the textbook, but I then photocopied or cut the spine of the textbook and put it in the LibreOffice
Yeah.
file. But essentially what I done was I highlighted relevant, and I mentioned, I do mean relevant text in the book.
Yep. Yeah.
And I took the page out of the LibreOffice file. I then read out loud to myself, and I done laps at the kitchen table.
Yeah.
Because I then discovered that not just reading and writing, but I was very visual in my learning, so I had a highlight.
Right.
I was very audio, so I had to talk
Okay.
out loud and listen. And I was kinesthetic,
Yeah.
so I had to be on the move. So, like, if someone came into our house way back 10, 15 years ago, they would have seen
thought you were crazy.
lunatic. Lunatic doing laps at the
Yeah.
kitchen table talking out loud to himself. And then I would have sat down and done the calculations or passed it. So I think it's sometimes experimenting what's good for you in terms of study technique.
I think, and with a lot of the students that I deal with, they are already part-time students. So they're like a lot, and I mean, I was one of those as well. I never studied full-time. We didn't have the finances to do that, so I had to work full-time as soon as I left school, and studied part-time, which means your time is always limited. So the days of making summaries or highlighting or going through theory are like they left with school, fine. But I think that however you decide to study, I feel that the starting point is not is not emphasized or not right, where like the students will start with, okay, this is the topic and this is what I need to study. Here's the chapter, this is what I need to study. But the problem is that when you start and when you're working through the topic or the concept or the work, you don't actually know what you're going to do with the information.
Yeah.
Like the outcomes themselves, like what are you going to be expected to do with this information? Because that changes how you absorb it. So if I say to you, you need to go through this information in order to recite it to me, versus write a paragraph or an essay on it, versus do a calculation on it, versus debate it and argue it, versus, teach someone else. Each of these different things that, each of these different outcomes will change the way that you study, and it will change the way you absorb the information, and it'll change what you focus on. Mm-hmm. So I find that the gap is that students, and I find to a large extent lecturers, this is where the lecturers go wrong, I think, or, a large portion of them is go, okay, today we're going to study fixed assets. You need to know like the recognition and the measurements and the definition, but you need to start before that and go, this is what you need to do with fixed asset knowledge. Like this is how it's going to look. You're going to need to disclose it in a set of financials, which means that you need to understand what it should look like on a set of financials. You need to understand how it's calculated, and so that, the students start off by going, oh, okay, I'm going to have to do calculations with this thing. So therefore, there's no point in making massive summaries of the theory, because I'm not going to use the theory. I need to focus on how and why the calculations work that way. So I think, and whether or not they go through that studying, walking around the kitchen table, talking to themselves, versus like making notes or whatever, or, putting it under their pillow at night and hoping that it'll get into their head by osmosis.
Praying to the study god.
Like, make this okay. Your starting point needs to be, what am I going to be expected to do with this information? Like what gaps are going to have to be filled? Because that's going to change the way you absorb it. I talk about, when students do this, I talk about like having orphan information. If you just study the information to put it in your head, your brain doesn't know where to categorize it. Like, what am I going to do with this information? So I'm just going to put it in my head, but it's like an orphan information. You need to build a house with that information. Like, this is what the house looks like. This is what the house has to look like. This is where it goes. This is what it looks like. And then when I put information in, it has a home. Stuff that belongs in the kitchen, like, oh, that's where it goes. That's where it goes. That's where it goes. And now you have a house. You don't have bits of information floating around in your head without understanding what it's connected to. So I think I would really love to see lecturers start by going, this is what you're going to have to do. This is what it looks like. Take a set of listed financial statements and go, this is it. This is what it looks like. This is what you're going to have to be able to do. And in order to do this, you're going to have to learn what is and isn't a fixed asset. You're going to have to learn what it looks like when you put it in the books the first time, and then what you're allowed to do with it after that, and how to calculate it. But you're not going to be reciting the standard. You're not going to be summarizing the standard. Like, that's not what it looks like.
But maybe that sort of dovetails in with the point you were making, Yvonne, about shaking up the education system. So how many, for example, how many auditing lecturers have actually been an auditor in practice? How many people can say this is actually what the outcome will be?
Yeah.
Now we're going to learn all this sort of stuff, but practically this is what happens: A, B, C, D. Yeah. So actually putting a bit of context around it, making it maybe seem more real and less theoretical and a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
And that's,
absolutely. It's those examples. I mean, you have, like, you were with GT for how long? I'm sure you, like, if you had to write a book on all the weird and wonderful stuff.
I'll give you one example about my first ever stock take. 2003, right? And it was Christmas Eve, and I was sent.
Oh no!
Oh yeah!
Oh no!
So it gets worse than that sometimes. Christmas Eve, and I was sent to a fish factory.
Oh, ew!
To count fish, right? So the advice I was given was this: James, you wear 3 pairs of jeans, you wear 5 jumpers, and you bring a pencil. You cannot use a pen in minus 8. You can't use a pen in the fridge.
Yeah. No textbook. No textbook. What are going to, like?
Nobody's going to tell you that. minus 18 degrees. Right?
Wow.
That's what it was. And I remember going into this and doing the stock take, and it was all by weight. So we had to count the number of boxes, and then the guy weighed in front of me. But I remember standing on top of this lift to go to these boxes and turn around. There's a baby shark looking at me.
What?
A dead baby shark. Exactly. You're not going to be taught that. You're not going to be taught that.
How do you classify the baby shark?
I think I told them to write it off.
Baby shark, obsolete.
That was obsolete.
Zero net value, no net value.
Lower of cost and net realizable value on a baby shark.
But I had one of my earlier stock takes. I was sent to a client, but they didn't actually tell me that I was going for a stock take. So I thought I was there to pick up certain information and to do like pre-planning on the audit, but they didn't tell me. So when I got there, they're like, oh yeah, so you're here for the stock take, you need to do the stock take. And it was a factory, it was a warehouse of nuts and bolts. So it's like a hardware warehouse, a massive warehouse, nuts and bolts, like, and obviously, the ladders, like you said, the lifts and the ladders, up and down, up and down, up and down. But I was in like 6-inch stiletto heels and like a mini skirt because I'm dressed.
Was that your auditing techniques?
That's it. Like, come on. So I was like, I'm like, God. So now I have to, like, I had to go up and down, like lifts and ladders in like 6-inch heels and a mini skirt. And I'm like, so now, like I say to students, part of your prep is never go to a client without a spare change of clothes in the car, because you just don't know where you're going to find, like that, you don't know where you're going to find one where you need sneakers and like jeans.
Yeah. Completely.
I think that the people in the warehouse found that very amusing. I'm pretty sure if that happened today, that would probably be on YouTube. This chick in thank goodness it was before YouTube kind of days.
Here's one thing. What would you wish that someone told you way back then to improve your study?
I think I was a classic accounting student. I was terrified of failure. And I had a very, very fixed mindset. I wish someone had have told me that you need to do stuff in order to build confidence, as opposed to feeling like you need to be confident before you can do stuff.
Okay.
Because so I kind of thought that I needed to learn the material and know stuff before I could do anything with it.
Okay.
And if I wasn't feeling confident about my knowledge and I wasn't feeling confident about my abilities, then I would never do anything. But that paralyzes you. And you know, with like accounting stuff and this stuff, you'll never feel confident. Like there's so much you need to know. So I thought that you needed to feel confident before you could do anything with it. And only much later did I realize that the way it works is you need to do stuff, figure out, and that builds confidence. You know, the next time you have that ability to go, yeah, the last time I sucked at this, I was still able to do something with it. And building confidence, you need to do in order to build confidence, as opposed to have confidence and then do it. Because that was paralyzing.
Makes perfect sense. So even that concept of reverse engineering, I was saying, you know,
Yeah.
go into the answer, understand where you went wrong, and go, right, use it as a positive.
Absolutely.
Go, I understand. Let's build up
Yeah.
the leverage confidence. Definitely with that.
Yeah.
One thing I wish that someone told me years ago, and I don't even mean this in terms of study, I do specifically mean in terms of study, but with life, is to meditate.
Okay.
So, and I tell every client this, and this is in session 1, whenever people are saying, oh, we're not going to be talking about profit and loss accounts. No, we're talking about meditation. And they go, what are you talking about, James?
That's not what I signed up for.
No. And I have had another client again that told me it was solely for telling her to start meditation 20 minutes before every time she studied.
Yeah.
She was on her 4th attempt at an ACCA paper, her last one before she qualified, and she failed it 4 times. She had passed everything before that with flying colours, and she couldn't understand why she failed this exam. It was mental block. You know, it was a snowball effect of confidence, of the variation of her confidence. And I went, okay, so before every study session, I want you to meditate for 20 minutes, lie in your bed, type in 20 minutes meditation into YouTube, and count your breaths for 20 minutes. Now, it's quite difficult to do that. But what it's doing is, and talking about the science of it, it's scientifically proven to help your cognitive ability and also obviously to manage your anxiety. So she then felt a bit more confident in terms of if she felt the fear starting to bubble up within inside her, about it was a question she couldn't do or whatever that may be, she then could close her eyes and breathe for a minute and get herself refocused. And James, wasn't for any tactical things that I told her. It was simply for the fact that she can manage her anxiety and her fears.
So much.
It's the same with me, Yvonne. Meditation has transformed me in the last 2 or 3 years, where I am a lot more grounded than I ever. Like, I'm a very emotional person, and emotions can pull me left, right, and center. But then to actually put your feet on the ground, breathe for a couple of minutes, and reset yourself, it makes a massive difference. I wish people told me that years ago.
It's all right, because we get lost in that, right? Once you have that fear, like your brain goes into the cycle of, I'm never going to get this right. I'm so stupid. I can't. What if? I'm going to be living on the streets. I'm going to be a street sweeper. And you need to stop that. You need to break the habit, come back, calm down, breathe, and then start again. Very true.
Without a doubt. The other thing is then, why do you do this yourself? Why are you a coach? Why are you passionate about it? I've often thought about why I do it. And
what's your answer to that?
I'm very much empathetic. That's the type of person I am. I get great job satisfaction of helping people. And it was always within me, Yvonne. So I loved, whenever I was an audit senior, I loved helping the junior staff. Whenever I was senior manager, I loved helping the trainees. And then I went into Grant Thornton's training centre outside London. I was there for a secondment. And it wasn't lecturing, but it was being a trainer, stroke coach.
Right. Yeah.
You weren't standing there preaching all the time. You actually went and done one-to-ones. I actually like the interaction, one-to-one or a small group. And getting to know the person as well. And I suppose the other reason why I like this is because I've been there. I know exactly what the people are. What the emotions they're going through.
Yeah.
And if I can use my skills to help people, I get much more job satisfaction out of that than the years that I was doing auditing, to be honest.
Yeah. Meeting audit budgets,
Oh yeah, or not, which is always the worst. Sorry, Mr. Partner, I've had an overrun here of X thousands. Never like that conversation at all.
No, moving on.
I think the reason I like using my experiences so I can tell the stories of the stock tick, or I really enjoy doing that. That's the reason why I do.
I think that like my definition of success is, if I get to the end of my life and I'm responsible for my own success, whatever I see that as, that's fine. But I want to get to the end of my life knowing and feeling that I was in some way partly responsible for other people's success. I want to know that somewhere along the line, I was able to provide a stepping stone somewhere, because everything you go through in life is, step, step, step. And sometimes there's just a stone missing where, the gap between that one and that one is just too far. And having someone just provide that one little stone is like, okay, now I can move on. I want to know that I'm able to do that for as many people as possible by the time I get to the end of my life. And there is so much, like the philosophy of my blog and my site is, I wish someone had told me that. I did so much stuff the hard way. And you same thing with you. There's so much stuff that I went through that I'm like, wow, if someone had have just told me that. There's so much stuff that people assume that or expect that but no one's telling you. No one's actually saying this is what you're really going to find, or be careful about this, or think about that, or whatever the case is. I don't want other people to struggle with the same stuff that I did. I don't want other people to say, I wish someone had told me that, when I do know that, and I could have told them that.
Completely agree. And something, even Yvonne, it's very interesting you mentioned, my definition of success has changed completely.
Oh yeah.
In the last number of years. 10 years ago, I wanted to be a partner in Grant Thornton. I was fast tracking partnership. I wanted the big salary and all that.
Yeah.
I very much had a success, now I don't.
Yeah.
Starting my own business, helping other people, being able to do this whilst I'm traveling, etc., is much more of success to me. And if someone comes up to me and says, James, you helped me so much to get through this and become a qualified accountant, that means so much. Actually, just saying those words or hearing those words.
It's the most incredible feeling. Most incredible feeling.
It is. It's amazing.
Absolutely. And it happens all the time. People come back and go, you don't remember me, or you might not remember me with all the people I've lectured, or whatever the case is. But, there was that thing that you did that made such a difference to me. And most cases, I don't remember what that was, because you can do stuff and say stuff and help stuff or whatever. You don't know what it is that someone's taking away from that. And they're like, that's what I needed to hear today. And that is so incredibly humbling.
Yeah.
It's so incredibly, and at the same time, you kind of go, if that's the impact that it had on that person's life, how terrible would it be if I never said that?
Yeah, definitely. No, it is.
What if I never did?
Do you know what it's about? It's all about legacy. The legacy you're creating.
Yeah.
This is so important.
Yeah. And I want to leave the world a better place. So if I believe that the education system should be changed, I might not be the person to change it. But if we have enough people out there, if we talk about this enough, the next generation might be the people who do that.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And so being a part of whatever the next generation does is I can't change as much on my own. But if we're having these conversations with the next generation of financial leaders, the world can look a lot different to what it does now because of the types of conversations that we're starting.
Yeah.
That's exciting. I can't do that on my own.
No, but it's great that we've connected, and it's the power of social media and and it's amazing that people who have nearly very, very similar philosophies and mindsets like ourselves can meet halfway across the globe. And
it's good to know I'm not as crazy as I thought I was.
No, I know I'm as crazy as you. maybe a bit slightly more. I don't know. So it depends.
Good to know I'm not alone.
Depends who you ask.
Thanks for that validation. Yeah.
But it's brilliant to see the work you're doing, and hopefully we can help as many people as possible to get. Now,
I agree.
Accountancy is a hell of a great qualification to have.
Agreed.
Portable. It's global. I maybe don't want to be an accountant anymore per se in terms of doing debits and credits, but I'm using my skills to help others with what I've learned.
Yeah.
So the more people we can help, the better. The world needs more accountants.
Yeah, more thinking accountants.
More thinking accountants is the thing.
The world needs more. I agree, and I think one of the really great things about connecting with you as well is to help us students and to help people realize that this is a global qualification.
So that.
The stuff that you talk about students struggling with, or the good stuff, the bad stuff, the ugly stuff, the great stuff, the exciting stuff, all of it is like, I can tick it off and go, yeah, that's the same. Our students struggle with the same thing. It might be a slightly different dynamic or whatever, but it's like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. So it's, you're up there and I'm down here, but it's the same, it's the same stuff. So it's absolutely transferable. The guys that sit and qualify here can go and work wherever.
Yeah.
And that's exciting. That's exciting. That type of mobility and that global mobility is unbelievably exciting.
And there's not that many professions that can actually have that transferability either.
100%. It's not industry specific. Accounting, you can work in any industry, anywhere in the world, and build an incredible career, and move wherever you want, unless you study tax.
Well,
but I don't have a passion.
There are two things in the world that people will always need: an accountant and an undertaker. Because you're going to pay tax and you're going to die.
That's very positive. Yeah.
Thanks. So on that note,
on that happy note,
thanks very much, Yvonne. I love the conversation. No doubt we'll be having many more conversations.
Absolutely.
And our audiences can take something out of that. So thanks very much.
Well, if nothing, it'll be amusing. It'll be entertaining, if nothing else.
Of course.
Right in the day.
Much. Thank you, now.
Thank you for the opportunity, man. I look forward to many more of these conversations.
Indeed.
Awesome.